To the program, the president of Warner Music Canada, Steve Kane. How are you?
I'm well, Ted. Yourself?
I am just peachy.
Yes.
He looks peachy.
Just living the dream, you know what I mean? So you've been with Warner for how many years? Well, you've been president for 10 years?
About 10 years, yeah. I've been there a dozen years and been working on the label side of the music industry since, well, probably the late 80s.
Yeah, and when did you get into the music industry?
Well, it's sort of always been part of it. You know, all through university, I worked in campus radio. I published my own fanzine, did some writing and record reviews. After university, sort of went traveling for a while, came back and figured I need a job again. So did what I usually did, picked up a job in a record store, and which is one of my favorite places to hang out anyway. In fact, somebody would pay me to hang out in a record store and give me the occasional free record. Sounded like a good deal. And I started meeting people who worked on the other side of the desk, who worked in record companies. And I thought, that doesn't look so hard.
Well, you know what? For those of us behind the microphone, we've been saying that for years.
That's right.
What the hell do those guys do? You've seen, I mean, just massive change over since you first got into the industry, and probably I would guess to say most of which in the last dozen or so years.
Yeah, the last decade for the recorded music industry has been one of enormous disruption, primarily through file sharing and the advent of Napster. So, you know, that really started to change things a lot, obviously, and we were hit very hard. We were the canary in the coal mine for what's become you know, the biggest challenge for any media company, any entertainment company. But it was also an amazing time of learning, and you really started to understand that, you know, this is a business that was all based on the song. So, you know, when we got to grips with it and partnered with people like Apple and iTunes, one of the most fascinating things to me was it was the return of the song. It was what got me excited about music as a kid. It was that, you know, that massive top 40 discovery of new music. And it was almost like a Back to the Future thing where everything was now driven again by a song. But the technical disruption was obviously massive. And it changed the way people consume and buy music. And we had to adapt to that.
How much of how much of your music is now recorded on vinyl? How much do you sell on vinyl?
That's been, in the last 4 or 5 years, has been that continued trend of the reintroduction of vinyl. It's still a very small portion of our sales. And for Warner Music Canada, it's only about 3% of our sales, but what's interesting about it is...
Well, considering at one point it was 0%.
And it was funny because when I first started in the business, we would sit in our planning production meetings and decide whether something was worth releasing on CD. And should we manufacture it here or should we import it from the States? I'm now going through the same thing, but in reverse, and saying, you know, should we be putting this out on vinyl? What's the demand? Should we make it here? Should we import it? And to me, the most interesting thing about it is it's kids.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there's 20-year-olds in my office who the vast part of their consumption is on vinyl. And I asked one of the gals one day, you know, why is it? I know why I'm thrilled to see the return of it because I'm a vinyl junkie and I, you know, have thousands and thousands and thousands of records. But for her, she said, when you decide to put on a record, you're making a commitment to actually listen. Where with streaming and digital and CDs, music became what else was going on in the background.
Right.
While you played video games, while you cooked dinner, the act of putting on an LP, she says, you know, you sit down, you listen, you get up, you flip it over, you sit back down and listen. That's a beautiful thing.
And you hold the artwork in your hand.
Yeah,
and you read
that was what I was going to say, the liner notes and the artwork. I mean, some of the most beautiful album artwork in contemporary music over the years is sitting on an album.
Oh, you think about those classic Blue Note jazz LPs. With, you know, you looked at it and you knew what you were getting. You knew
design.
It was quality, by design. Chess records had, you know, a definite look. It was part of it. Yeah, it was,
well,
it was part of the whole
look at Sgt. Pepper. I mean, he used to sit there and,
Yeah.
You know, fire up a cracker and see how many people you recognize.
Or the Blues Breaker album.
Yeah. And watch
with
the
that
movie.
cover, you know. anything by the Cream or Jimi Hendrix, you would hold those covers and just
And you
devour
pass them around.
Yeah, you passed
You
them
know,
around. Yeah.
you would sit, in your parents' basement or your apartment, and you'd pass that album cover around. I've never sat and watched people pass around their iPod and go, oh wow, that was fantastic. Look at that.
On a typical album now, what would the sales be on that? I mean, what would be a big selling vinyl?
Oh, on
now?
vinyl. Well, it's funny because I was looking at this the other day. We did, on Led Zeppelin, the Live at the O2 concert.
Okay.
It's just, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. We did 20, 30,000.
Wow.
On the most part, you're talking maybe 1,000 pieces. You're
Right, for
talking,
the
yeah.
And priced at what?
19, 20 bucks.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And the funny,
like a CD.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, and the funny
Cheaper.
thing is, people never complain about the price of vinyl.
No.
But they still look at a CD at 10 bucks and go, oh, that's outrageous. When I left record retail, we had just broken the $10 mark on a piece of vinyl.
Yeah.
Now, 25 years later, I'm looking at CDs, you can get for 10, 12 bucks.
The sound quality's better though on vinyl. That's what I'm told.
It's funny. That's a debate I always
I
have.
don't know.
It's different. I don't know if it's better. It's definitely different. And when people talk about warmth and they talk about a depth of sound, that I think is true, because you listen to digitally recorded music. There's a clip. It's very harsh. Vinyl's a little smoother. It's a little. People always talk about warmer. I'm never quite sure what that means, but
More presence?
more presence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing beats the old 8-track though.
Oh.
You're halfway through a song and suddenly it has to click over to the next track.
Right. Slim Whitman's greatest hits.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think my dad had a Jimi Hendrix 8-track that he played in the car all the time, and it was like right in the middle of Foxy Lady. And so I hear that song now,
Yeah.
and you're conditioned to wait for the clunk, that
Yes.
clunk.
Well, I believe it was Abbey Road in the song "The End."
Yeah.
In the end, at one point, click, then it comes back. And you're right. Whenever I hear it now, I think, "Where's the click?" Just doesn't sound right.
And it's funny because we joke about the mighty 8-track, but there is a resurgence in cassettes now. I don't know if that's just
Why?
like an ultimate sort of hipster thing.
I think
don't
hipster.
know. They sounded dreadful in the day.
And they still
sound
do.
dreadful now.
Yeah, exactly. My guest in studio is Steve Kane. He is the president of Warner Music Canada. We're back in a moment. 1:45 right now. Let's check the time. Saver traffic.